Record on this. Cool. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our second gathering of the tribes. And I see lots of familiar faces from last month, and I'm seeing lots of new faces as well. So thank you all so much for showing up and contributing your time and presence and energy. And let's just take a moment to center ourselves and connect with one another. So I'll invite everybody to, place your feet flat on the ground, get an upright spine. Take a big inhale together. Exhale, sigh it out. Just take another big inhale. Exhale, sigh it out. Allowing each breath to bring us into this present moment and connection with one another. Out of the 8 billion people on the planet, acknowledging the souls that are hearing this call to come together and build community, to live in right relation, reciprocity, harmony with ourselves, with one another, with the earth. Showing up here together with open minds and open hearts, intentions to share inspiration, love, joy, connection with one another. Space of healing, love, and joy. And taking a moment to acknowledge the indigenous people that of your local region. Here in San Diego, it would be the Kumeyaay. And if you don't know what the local indigenous tribes are of your land, that'd be a good thing to look up and do a little research, and just acknowledging the people that have stewarded the lands where we currently live for thousands of years in a healthy and beautiful way. Acknowledging and honoring and respecting that wisdom, traditional ecological knowledge. And just take a moment or two of silence here to be present with one another and the intentions of this gathering. All right. Thank you all for taking some time to be present with one another, share our coherence, build our coherence. And we can get started here. I'll share, some of you were here last month. I'll share just a quick little intro and context to what inspired these gatherings. My background is in architecture. I've been focused on eco-village design and development and regenerative community development for about the last 10 years. We had a small prototype eco-village project outside of San Diego from 2018 to 2020. And it was a beautiful experience. 11 of us got together on 12 acres of land, and we all did training in sociocracy as our organization and governance model. And it was a beautiful experience. And that ended right when COVID started. It was an interesting timing. And just recently in this last year, I've just been okay, I'm ready to live on land with people. I'm ready to build a community with like-minded, like-hearted souls. And just kind of that process of like, who are the people that, resonate with these similar core values and intentions and vision. And so I've created this gathering to do that. And the format, for anybody that's not familiar, so we're doing this once a month on the first Thursday of the month on Zoom, because there's people like all across the country who have expressed interest, and kind of all across the world. We're thinking about trying to do this also with another time zone, so people in Europe could participate. So we'll see kind of how that evolves. So that's the monthly first Thursday online, we do this. And then also on the third Saturday of the month, which for this coming month is July 15th, next Saturday, we're doing an in-person gathering to cultivate the relationships in the communities where we live. So like myself and Tyler are helping host and cultivate that here in San Diego. We just traveled on June all through New Mexico, Colorado, Nebraska, meeting with all kinds of people, sharing this similar vision. And Sedona, Boulder, and Taos, we had a small little gathering, and there's people that are going to host an in-person gathering there next Saturday in those communities. So any of you that live anywhere else, if you're in San Diego here, we'd love for you to join us here. And if you're somewhere else, we have that template. You're totally invited to host your own in-person tribes in your community. And the idea with the template is, so we're all doing something similar. So we're kind of in coherence with shared vision and values. And each person or each town, can have some flexibility in exactly what they want to do with their gathering, but we want to make sure we're all somewhat on the same page. And I'll give a couple updates from June. I found a couple tons of amazing people and projects along the way, and a couple that really stuck out to me. There's 44 acres of land in Paonia, Colorado, called Juniper Springs. And amazing group of people, and they're networked with another community in Costa Rica called, I think it's Diamante de Luz, and they and several other communities learned about this triad model that they're working with, where they put the land into a land trust. They form a PMA, a public membership association, and then also some form of religious or spiritual entity, like a 501c8. And with those three entities together, it creates a unique, like in a way, almost sovereignty. So, when we're looking at eco-villages, there's a lot around building, zoning and building permits, how many structures can be on a property. And sometimes that's a real hindrance to the process. And so through having the religious entity, the land trust, and the PMA, there's more than that. There's actually programs, there's research in the wicked books, and the law of so that was really interesting to learn about. And that property down in Costa Rica is doing that same model. And I found that to be really inspiring. There's another 40 acres outside of Crestone that a group is forming a community that we went to visit the land. There's another gentleman who's purchasing 144 acres right outside of Taos that is an inspiring project. Some other friends have 8 acres outside of Taos that are doing some pretty cool things. We went to visit the Llama Foundation, which is about 20 minutes outside of Taos, New Mexico, and that has been a community that's been in operation for 56 years. So it was really, I've been there a handful of times, and it was really beautiful to go and just see a really highly functioning community that's been in process for 56 years. And they have a summer mentorship program where people can go and be stewards for the summer. And then if they want to stay on and be considered as residents, they have a consensus voting process to vote people on to potentially be a resident for the following year. And then in Sedona, when we had our gathering, there's a small little eco village and farming project getting started south of Sedona. So those were just a couple things that we found on our journey that I thought was inspiring to just share with the group. And we can use the Telegram thread to go deeper into, different aspects of all of those properties and communities. But for the moment here, I want us to have like a couple minutes to get to know one another. So I'm going to put us into a breakout room with around 3 people. And we're just going to take about a minute each. And if somebody in the group has a phone with a timer, you could do that and just kind of keep each other at about a minute. And you can just keep it simple: name, where you live, and what is inspiring you to participate in Gathering of the Tribes. And I'll just post that there in the chat. And so it'll just be able to be in the breakout room for like 3 or 4 minutes for each of you to share with one another, get to know each other a little bit. And then we'll come back here into the main room and I'll set us up with our next prompt. And the format we're going to do is I'll kind of share a prompt and a question, and then we'll get into breakout rooms for a certain amount of time, share kind of our responses to the question, and then we'll come back into the main whole group to share any specific kind of inspiration or wisdom that came out of our small breakout groups. So, and while I find the breakout rooms section here, breakout rooms, does anybody have any specific questions before I create the breakout rooms? Okay. And Tyler, I don't know if you can.
Do you want to make me a co-host?
Let's see, include a co-host to breakout rooms. There we go. All right, so I have like 3, 4 minutes, kind of each person about a minute to just share name, introduction, where you are, and what is inspiring you to be here at Gathering of the Tribes. So we'll see y'all in 3 or 4 minutes. And Heather, oh, did you already zoom out? Maybe one person. Heather, you want to stay here just in the main room with me? Sophia, it looks like you're connecting to audio. Sophia, can you hear? Can you hear?
I can, but I'm like on my phone too. So I'm in a breakout room. So I'm gonna I'm gonna converse with this really cool guy, and then I'll shut down my phone and be on my computer. So
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna say you could stay if there's in that breakout room. Is there 3 people?
there's 2 currently, just me and Andrew.
Okay. gonna say, if you want, you could stay here with me because I'm recording, and if that way there's a little dialogue here in this if you want to stay, or you can go to that room if you want.
Well, it would leave Andrew by himself.
Oh, okay. Go for it then.
Come back to the main group.
Oh, yeah, he said he's down for coming back to the main group. Oh,
We have 3 of us.
looks like he's got some newcomers. I'm gonna mute and hang out with Andrew for a bit.
Okay.
Hey Joshua, I went into the breakout room and there was nobody else there.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, then you can share with me.
Okay, I was like, I waited a minute or two and then I'm like, well, I don't think anyone's showing up. So I came back.
Great. So where are you and what is inspiring you to participate with Gathering of the Tribes?
I am in Portland, Oregon right now. That is temporary spirit placement, and spent the last decade, majority of the last decade in Latin America. So what's inspiring me to be part of Gathering the Tribes is I have a vision of creating a off-the-grid sustainable retreat, holistic retreat center in Colombia. And also possibly Costa Rica, though we'll see that maybe like a little bit further down the line. So this is why I'm here. I'm also cooking dinner simultaneously. I'm a little bit multitasking.
Multitasking.
Yeah. So that's why I'm here. And your guys' trip around the Southwest the last few days was just so inspiring to hear the examples of everyone who's like boots on the ground, you know, like doing the things. Super, super cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to see like things in action, you know, like the guy out on the 40 acres in outside of Crestone. I mean, he's out there, there's a team and there's a board of directors and they have a nonprofit and everything, but he's out there by himself right now, like just like creating a garden in the middle of like it's pretty intense, like landscape out where it's at. It's like very exposed, but it was just cool to see, like, he's like, I'm out here and I'm doing it, you know?
That's the way to be. You just gotta go for it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are looking to do, is it the land-based project where y'all are looking, you and your partner looking to live? Is it near San Diego, or are you guys kind of like open right now, just like trying to figure it out kind of thing?
We're very open. Yeah, we're very open to numerous different scenarios and locations. Like we're interested in Colorado, New Mexico, also interested in like Central South America as well. So we're kind of in that exploration process.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that place you mentioned in Costa Rica, the Diamante, that's definitely, there's like a lot of permaculture land-based projects going on in that particular space. And then my father and stepmother live in the South and they have a permaculture project, and like there's Pachamama Institute in the North. Costa Rica is like very vibrant for all of this right now.
Yep, there's a lot going on there.
So I'm here for the inspiration and the collective wisdom sourcing and idea generation, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I think we're probably at several minutes here. So I think I'm going to close the breakout rooms. That'll give people, I think, 60 seconds to come back in here. Close all rooms. There we go. And we'll get ready for our next question. So 3 people, 2 minutes, 6 minutes. There we go. Hello, Steve. Welcome. is back. Okay.
Oh, we're back.
Yes, I was at Waterpalooza too.
Thanks for letting me in late.
Sure.
Right. Recreate rooms. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a chance to get to know some new people here in the group and hear about one another's inspiration. And what we're going to do for the next question and prompt, and it'll be similar. There'll be about 3 people to break out, and we'll take this time about 2 minutes each to respond to this question. So we'll have around 6 minutes or so in the breakout, and then we'll come back into the main group and share kind of the highlights and inspiration of our collective wisdom. So I'll post this question in the chat. And I think once you all go down to the breakout rooms, some people have said you can still see that in the chat, and some people say you can't see it. So I'll read it here and we'll just get it clear in everyone's mind. So, so you have it. So, what level and depth of trust do you feel you would need to cultivate with someone or multiple people before making significant decisions to move onto land together and build community? And then to go beyond that, what are some practices and or processes we could do together to cultivate this level of trust and commitment? So I'll read that again. What level and depth of trust do you feel you would need to cultivate with someone or multiple people before making significant decisions to move onto land together and build community? What are some practices and or processes we could do together to cultivate this level of trust and commitment? So we'll head down into breakouts, and each of you will have take about 2 minutes to share your response to those questions. And I'm gonna try to bring a couple people into this main room so I have somebody to talk to. So let me take, just gonna say like Gaia Warriors, maybe Heidi and Glow and Sean, if you want to stay here in the main room with me, and then everybody else can go into your breakout rooms. And we'll see you in about 6 minutes. All right, Glow, you're still here with me.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's good. It's so funny because I only got partnered with Heidi, and then we have so many similarities of connections.
Awesome. And
Joshua, could you resend the link, like where you can go into the room? I missed out on that link that you just sent.
oh yeah, I might have started the breakout room.
No worries, in any case, yeah.
Or you got in here. Let me see if I can send you to one, or you can stay here with
Yeah,
us.
that works. That works.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's start with you, Glow.
Can you repeat the questions one more time?
What level and depth of trust do you feel you would need to cultivate with someone or multiple people before making significant decisions to move onto land together and build community? What are some practices and or processes we could do together to cultivate this level of trust and commitment?
Well, first of all, I think it's a great question, and thank you for asking that, because I think we all can learn more about that, and it would be great to find better practices to create trust and transparency. And I think like number one, being able to be seen, like trusting ourselves like as humans and being able to be witnessed and to know that we're all having this human experience, and we like just being able to recognize our emotions and to be okay with recognizing your emotions, whatever that emotion may be, and not suppress them. So being able to be angry and be sad and be frightful, and but then also have joy and creativity and all the different emotions. And then, you know, the line values, I guess, first for me, ahimsa, you know, like nonviolence, and, you know, finding, I mean, that's would be ultimately number one. And then energetic boundaries, of course, you know, consensual boundaries, and finding those ways of doing things. But I don't really know, I honestly don't know what practices create that kind of trust living long term. I would love to learn more.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, love. Heidi? I think you might still be on mute.
I shouldn't be.
Oh, there, now here, yeah.
I believe pretty much that's kind of the base standards. I 100% agree with what she said. I actually have a lot of shared property and shared boats and odd things. So I have like everything I do is sort of sharing right now. And it's kind of came into light that that's what other people are starting to do. So yeah, I think I don't even know what made us all trust each other enough to go in on a giant catamaran or buy a giant farm on a river that had a bunch of garbage and know that we'd all clean it up and make it nice. There's just some kind of interesting connection that you find with people when you're being honest, like she was saying, honest with yourself. And I think honest with the world, you just bump into those people, then they gravitate together. And I don't know how I knew that actually, but it seems to have worked out. So I'll have to contemplate what that was now that I've done it, and get back to you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Heidi, you were at Regenesis last year, yeah? Yeah, awesome. Nina,
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you?
Good. I am, these are really great questions, I think, too, and something that I would like to know more about because I would like to meet some people that I could trust to invite here and to grow a community on my property. And yeah. So I'm open to all ideas or suggestions on how to build that and create that with people, with like-minded people.
Awesome. Sammy, would you like to share?
Yes, absolutely. First, thanks for the work that you're doing, Joshua, because getting in the background doing all this organization is so much work. I just feel like I'm doing a little bit of this now. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much work. So I'm just saying thank you so much for doing what you're doing because it's tremendous. It's unbelievable. And I love the name Gathering of the Tribes because at the end of the day, I think we're all going in the same direction. We may not be aware of it right now, but this is where we're heading in the exact same direction. We're all getting spiritually elevated. And to answer that question that you ask, it's actually a really good question for sure. I feel like it's about having clear visions. Each person needs to do the work of meditating on themselves and trying to get visions of what they would like to see in the world and change and their goals and aspirations. And when we have clear visions, we can then share those visions and see if we're currently aiming in the same direction. I think, like I said, eventually we live in the same world. If we create heaven on earth, it's the same for everyone. But we may not go in the same way about it. And I think, yeah, just trying to figure out what we really want right now, what's important, and about each other is going to help in being able to make those decisions.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
let's see, I'm gonna close the breakout rooms. It'll give people about 60 seconds. We'll come back into our big room, close all.
I just wanted to mention it's so cool that you're mentioning the Diamante Luz and everything, because I've been in conversation with Gregory about the Trinity, and then like every conversation I've been having, like every meeting has just been like so linking together. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it's the synergies are amazing. Just similarly, like when we were, accidentally there at Juniper Springs the same night as the people from Diamante de Luz, and like just one thing led to the next, and the right person was like, oh, let's talk about this. And Heidi, you were part of the water group, yep. And so I met Angelique and a group in Crestone, and yeah, just so many little great synergies and weaving. So yeah. All right, 3 seconds, and everybody's going to be coming back in here. Take a sip of water.
No, my hair is not on fire. Just looks that way.
Yeah. All right, so let's take, maybe around 6, 7, 8 minutes right now just to share any nuggets of wisdom that you feel you all came up with in your breakout sessions together of what it takes to build the level of trust needed to make big decisions with people, and any like practices or processes that we could start to do with this group to build that level of trust. So let's just kind of open the table, and like, if you have something to share, maybe try to keep it around a minute or so, just so we have the opportunity for several people to share. And we'll just kind of leave the open space right now for anybody who would like to share. And you can either take yourself off mute or kind of raise your hand, and I can try to find you and unmute you.
So in our breakout group, we talked about, one person brought up, I think was really good, being on the same page with each other about what the rules and the norms would be in your community. Like some communities don't allow cats, some communities don't have noise regulation. So getting on the same page with that would help build trust. And we talked a little bit also about how play and playing games together with each other, either online or in person, can really help develop a sense of ease and opening up with each other as well.
Awesome. I love it. Who else? I feel like you had some good wisdom come out of your breakout session.
One of the things that I thought about for a while was about transparency regarding finances, so that everybody knows where everybody else is coming from, so that if a sudden emergency comes up, like a huge plumbing bill or something, that everybody knows who can contribute what to that. And the people who, for instance, couldn't contribute monetarily might put in more hours doing, labor and that type of thing. So that's really very important to me. The transparency over time, it just helps to build trust, that people know who they can count on. And, people are, if they're transparent about their finances, they're more than likely to be transparent about other things too in their life, that, further builds trust, so that everybody knows they have the backing of each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think transparency in finances is a super, super important component. Thank you for sharing that.
I'd like to share also a few things with the group. I think it will help. Just in summary, what we come up is that ultimately, what is the goal, the ultimate goal of the community we're trying to create? Because we may have different goals, but if each person can work on what is the ultimate goal, what do we want to achieve, and maybe that goal is different. So in one of the breakout rooms, we talked about the fact that we could do a community that is more centered to the outside world, meaning helping people. So that could be different. And so that could be the ultimate goal of the community, is giving, being of service, for example. And I feel like if people think about that, then ultimately if we go in the same direction with an ultimate goal, it could really help you find that out, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes. And I agree with you, Sammy. I support that course of action for our community.
I had a simple practical idea. If you've ever seen like card decks, like Let's Get Deep, this is like a dating questions for couples, but you could totally create, if you had enough experience in community building, you could create a deck of cards that's like, let's see if we're compatible for co-creating a community, and then just like go through these cards in group settings like it's a game, and you start to get us an idea for someone else's value set and how they think and solve problems with their minds.
I love that idea. And I'm wondering, like the Global Eco Village Network and FIC, they do have a lot of resources. It'd be interesting to look through their website, and like it wouldn't surprise me if they have like a deck of cards or something around that. And if not, maybe we should create that.
There's in NVC, there's decks of cards that you can, there's two decks. There's a deck that says needs and a deck that has feelings. And the needs are pretty much values, basically what they are. And I also wanted to add, and if anyone's not familiar with what NVC is, it's nonviolent communication, which I think is a misnomer, but anyway. One thing that I ended up saying in our group is that I think what helps me trust someone is to know how they will respond when the conflict happens, because it inevitably will. And also, I've been having this weird impression of when people try to make everything be positive, there's just something about that's like not trustworthy to me. So I don't really know how to like flip that and say like what I would want that to be. Like, be real, you know? I don't know. It's not real. Yeah.
Mhm.
Authentic.
Authenticity, yeah.
I'd love to jump in here with what Tyler and I talked about, which was basically creating experiences that generate intimacy, because intimacy is like the way that we get to see each other's shit, light, dark, shadow, all the things. So Andrew's card deck thing kind of reminded me, or made me think of this. And one way that I build trust and that I've noticed is going through tough shit with people. So whether that is like climbing a mountain with someone, going in like a really in-depth workshop, like, you know, building something like hard physical something or hard spiritual something, doing hard things together and really seeing what comes out of each other, like all of our nasty parts and all of our awesome parts, all of that. And like Melanie was just saying about the authenticity, just really bringing that in through cultivating intimacy in some sort of experiences, like something that is, we're either building towards something, but it's before getting onto land together, really seeing if we're compatible in the fact that, yeah, we're going to have conflict and we're going to have issues and all these things. So how is it addressed? How do we handle it? And are the ways that people navigate things compatible with the ways that I do it or you do it?
Mm-hmm. Super good points. And like the thought of like when you're saying like climbing a mountain together or something, it's interesting with this gathering of the tribes, because we have, you know, people on these Zooms in the Telegram group from all over the country, all over the world. And then we have the idea and the opportunity to get together in person with our local communities, like those of us in San Diego can start, getting together in person. And I think that takes another level of like connection and intimacy building. Zoom's great, you can do a certain amount, but like there's so much more that actually comes when we meet in person. And, the thought that some of us here might be in different states, but we might be interested in a community in Costa Rica together. And so it's like, those of us here in San Diego could be like, hey, let's find a volunteer project, or, go climb a mountain together and like, put ourselves through some strenuous situations and like get to know one another. But there's nothing to say that also like that those of us that are in San Diego are the ones like all going to build the community together, because some of us might want to go to Costa Rica. And so then it's just kind of an interesting question to kind of hold in our mind of how we build trust, virtually with people kind of across the country, how we build deeper relationships with the people in the towns where we already live. And yeah, so we have kind of a perplexing question here for us all to kind of explore together. And for our next question and breakout group, let me pull it up here. It is going to be like core values and deal breakers. So the question, I'll put it here in the chat, is what are your top 1 to 3 core values for creating community, your must-haves, and what is one deal breaker for community building, a must not have? So something like if this was present, like you would not feel like you wanted to be part of that community anymore. So 1 to 3 core values that are really important to you in building community, and 1 deal breaker. So that's going to be the question. We'll do a similar thing. We'll go into the breakout rooms. Each of you have like around 2 minutes to share with one another. And I'm going to ask a couple people to stay here before I create the breakout room, so I have somebody to chat with. Possibly if Bob from Earthseed Eco Village maybe could stay with me in this main room. And I think that'd be good because it looks like there's about 3 in all of the other breakout rooms. So what are your top 1 to 3 core values for creating community, and what is 1 deal breaker? And we'll see you all in around 6 minutes or so. Oh, looks like Bob might have joined that group. So maybe, let's see. Maybe Christopher. Oh. Christopher might be by himself right now. There's Bob, you're back here.
I didn't get to join a breakout room. I don't know if but never mind. It's here. It's resetting itself.
Mine didn't work. I can try again.
I failed to follow instructions.
I saw you leave and then come back, Bob.
It's like, oh, he's inviting me to no.
Cool. Let me just make sure nobody's in a room by themselves.
That was me. I was by myself.
Me too.
I came here.
Liz, I'm gonna move. Let's see.
It's good to meet you, Melanie.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, Go.
How do you want to connect? Do you want to connect over Telegram or email?
You want to send me your email address?
Sure.
Move to breakout room 3.
I don't look at Telegram very often.
You can send me yours too.
Yes.
All right, well, let's just get going with this group. I just want to make sure nobody was in a breakout room by themselves. Okay. Yeah, and we have a little bit bigger group here with, so let's like, yeah, maybe we'll do like a minute and a half each or something of one core value and one deal breaker. How about you, Bob?
One of the core values I have is that we focus on whatever is in front of us that has the top priority. That seems where we can serve the best and make the most impact. And I've noticed that in this situation, it was around the structure of the actual groups and the time amount that we were having for these breakout rooms. And I was wanting to like send you some sort of indication around my preferences or my thoughts around how that could be improved.
That'd be great.
And also my concerns around the membership and the people numbers that are showing up here. So that's what I think I would like my community to focus on, what's really important towards manifesting the vision, one of them.
I love that and would love to hear your feedback. And we can do that kind of outside the breakout room. What would be a deal breaker for you?
Find myself kind of like there's so many, I don't really know where to start or feel too inspired to go into them actually.
Okay.
A big deal breaker is someone that is wanting to create just a container for their own tribe, their own family, their community, and is like very resistant to putting energy beyond that little bubble in the vision, or supporting something that has more of a whole earth ethic.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing, Bob.
Can I share?
Yes.
Is the values first, right? I think, as I said before, number one value would be ahimsa, so nonviolence, and nature first. So like having a really strong connection with nature and integrating nature within the community. And then like one of my main missions on Earth is to really localize the products that we consume. So like creating food sovereignty, and also all the products that would be used within the community would be supporting the local community. So I know it's difficult right now because they're hard to find, products that are plastic free, that are natural, that are local, but doing that as much as we can, and being able to support these small businesses will then in turn generate more abundance for the local community as well. And I see that it's very challenging for people to do this because these products are more expensive. So being able to produce our own products in the future and be able to exchange these resources with other larger villages and food and farmers, basically, and being able to move off of fiat currency. And I would say number two would be just being able to deal with our shit. We like to put our shit behind us or hide it in the closet, but being able to actually like recognize where we're struggling, what are our challenges, and like be straight up and like go through our emotional journey to be able to realize ourselves and self-actualize. And I'm also vegan, so I would prefer to create a vegan community. I think that would be my one exception, would be I wouldn't want to, put my whole life effort into a dairy farm or like a, mass slaughterhouse. So being able to, have sovereignty for all beings as well in that sense, and keeping our air and water and land clean as well. So yeah, thank you for asking those questions. It's amazing.
Thank you, Glo. And with the vegan thing, like totally hearing like you wouldn't want like a dairy farm or a slaughterhouse, like part of like the village or the community. Would you be open to people that were not vegan, like that did eat meat there? Or is that like kind of a deal breaker where you wouldn't want anybody eating meat in the community?
I mean, I'm not going to judge people for doing what they, their own decisions, but I would also question be like, where is that actually coming from? Because I don't want to support the, big egg or anything like that. So I wouldn't want any, big egg products in my community at all. And like really set an example for, what can be built for the future. Because if we continue to, support these industries, then we're just feeding this monster that is enslaving us and continuing to control this corruption on planet Earth and continuing this suffering. So really like being able to actually create sovereignty is like, moving off these old archaic systems that are suffering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard one. It's really difficult.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
How about you, Melanie?
That's actually my deal breaker is I wouldn't want, I'll start with the deal breaker because it's good follow through here. I just wouldn't want to be part of a community that commodifies other beings in any way. So like, I wouldn't want to be looking at that because I wouldn't be able to be silent about it. And I wouldn't be able to just kind of go, well, that's their, that's what they do and it's okay. And I'm not going to tell anybody what to eat, but I definitely don't want to live somewhere where, for example, for a simple example, chickens are being treated like egg layers. So I would love to have a community or form a community that together can sit and like talk about that kind of a thing directly. And probably my biggest value that I hold most dear is authenticity. So I feel like I don't know how authentic it would be to get together and say we want kindness and we want love and we're trying to strive towards togetherness and loving energy, but only towards humans. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes trees and plants and, they have different nervous systems, but they also have lives. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say for now, but it's a really deep subject to me, and I'm actually I'm about to go on a trip looking at communities. I'm over here on the east side of the US universe. And I'm gonna explore a little bit here, but ultimately I want to end up either out west or somewhere outside of the US. So I would love to find a place with other, not vegans necessarily, but people who understand that concept of what I'm talking about, of like, if we want kindness, we can't just say that only humans deserve it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Melanie.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Jamie, would you like to share?
Let's see. I think I would start with my aspirational side. I like Sammy mentioned, and I also took from Bob perhaps a focus that I also share, which is to see that communities both thrive well within the community, but also that we are facilitating the community to be able to be possible for others, and especially others who might need help making that happen, as opposed to the others that got all the resources in the world and can just make it happen. So that I've lived in communities multiple times over the course of my life, and some that are highly functional, but to the extent that they end up as our own private resort, no matter how sustainable and agrarian and cool, I kind of got bored. It wasn't going to make a difference in the world, our little heaven. And so, yeah, I would like to see us work together to see communities that are sustainable and collaborative be able to scale and be able to have a community that has a certain degree of focus on facilitating that to happen. And I believe in collaborative work where our sense of right and wrong is the leader, as opposed to, oh, this person is the leader. I am not very interested in a hierarchical relationship. I would like a relationship where we reason things out and we come to a collective decision as best we can, and we weigh how much somebody cares where there are disagreements and try to find common ground. And I don't have a lot of tolerance for endorsing scam artists, however you might want to put that. And so while that, that can happen with where side effects of the world, but as a community, I would hope we can find creative ways of not letting that just go on. And so those are, I think, my aspirations and my concerns.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jamie.
My pleasure, Alia.
And Ursula, I saw you type in the chat. I don't know if you want to say that out loud, or I could read it. We are going to go back to the main group here in a second. I'm not sure if you want to or can come off mute, but it said, core value, be honest about your expectations. Be sure that you like to be part of a community and contribute. Think of your benefit, but also as it can benefit the community. So that was from Ursula.
Yay.
And yeah, I really appreciate and resonate both Jamie and Bob with what you're saying about making sure that it's of service to the global tribe, the world as a whole, not just, a certain small group of people. And Bob also would love to talk with you or hear about your ideas for timing breakouts and stuff. We can either, we can do that on a little phone call or Telegram or something, but I appreciate that feedback. All right, so let's share some inspiration and wisdom that came from that around core values and deal breakers. The table is open for anybody who'd like to share.
It seemed like our group really wanted to have a community place to come together. We also felt it was important to grow most of our own food, and we were talking about like what we picture in our mind when it comes to how the community would be. And I feel we all kind of, like I said, wanted a central place. Like I was wanting to have a place to come together for meals, and like gathering food out of the garden and preparing together and eating in a central like kitchen area. And then, but then everybody have their respective like own little bedroom or like little cabin or something where they could retreat to. And that was kind of what I recall. What about everybody else?
Christopher, did you want to share?
Well, I did share in the previous breakout. my core value was honesty. And I was in the room with Steve Fuji, and he had a lot to say. And one of his core values was being healthy, being in a healthy situation. And one of the deal breakers for me was being in a group with that had a lot of fear and a lot of, prepper mentality, thinking that the world's going to end and they better, circle the wagons and, stock ammo and stuff like that. That'd be a deal breaker for me. And did you want to contribute, Steve? Maybe not.
One thing that was shared by a couple people in our breakout group was a core value that there would be a larger intention to be of service to the global tribe and community, not just like within a small group of people, that making sure that the community was of service and providing support to the world at large. So several people kind of shared a similar sentiment around that, and I agree for sure.
We also talked about the importance of being of service outside of the community and the community at large. And some other things that were brought up were just like access to water and, growing food and the possibility of that even being, possible. We also talked about the arts and music and dance and theater and these different modalities, and how arts can be a vehicle for expression, healthy expression, and also communion and connection, and potentially even conflict resolution, who knows? But yeah, that's some of what we talked about.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one thing that Tyler and I noticed on our travels of several of the different properties we went to, and people that are like in process that have land, and like how important water was to them for any property that they were finding, to make sure it had access to healthy, abundant sources of water.
I think it was definitely a tough question to answer in some ways, but I feel like we can maybe agree that the frequency plays a big part, and people nurturing with each other the frequency of trusting that we can be guided into success. And also what I feel is that this new type of community that is emerging, if it is centered around helping others and being of service, I think it just raises the frequency, which then helps solving problems much more easily, and cohesion and everything else. Being of service can help anybody into healing. It can help the community rise in frequency. It can help the individuals into healing, because it's the highest purpose we can live for. And I feel like, I don't know, I've heard that communities maybe had not been successful before, not too many intentions had not been successful before. I think it's because there's not enough of a bigger picture. Let's see the world. Let's heal the world. Let's create the frequency that goes beyond, because we know there's no limit to the energy. So this is my take on it.
Here.
Love that.
In my group, there was a bit of talk about quality of communication, because a lot of communities just crumble when the communication isn't there. And I put a little emphasis on valuing health, because the physical and mental health, I think, go hand in hand. And that is sort of the basis for honesty, the bravery to be fully honest, and the strength to be kind and compassionate to others, to have extra resource within yourself so that you can do that for others. And I also emphasize that that I think serving and prioritizing the soul is key, because that's the deep nourishment, the sort of self-actualization level in the Maslow's pyramid of needs. That's like, you need to really be feeding that for people to be healthy enough to really be bringing their gifts to the community and outside of the community. And if you don't have that mentality going into it, I think a lot of people can just get lost, and then they get into unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Beautiful. Yeah, important stuff.
I would like to speak to this also, because I come from a background of Indigenous ways. I run an organization of Indigenous elders from all over the world and representatives. And I feel that something that we haven't spoken of, maybe Sammy alluded to it a little bit, but we're not speaking of an understanding of a shared culture. Now, what I'm talking about in that is not the African culture or this culture or that culture, but what is the bottom line on a shared culture? How do we see the world working in harmony? How do we see that it would facilitate everyone in the earth to flourish? If there's a shared understanding of this, then people will naturally understand more so what kinds of things they would necessarily cultivate in the situation. So if there's an understanding of these kinds of things are wisdom, or these kinds of things are health, and they do agree that that is true by looking at it from a place of consensus, then there is a unity that ensues within that. So just bringing a bunch of people, some which have a Western mindset of certain kinds of things, like let's say colonialism and grab what you can, or bringing another type of person that says, okay, we all share, bringing another type of person that says, and expecting it to work isn't developing a shared understanding of what actually the law of existence is, as far as ecologically, like water runs down a hill. If we know that, we don't fight to do something weird with it, because that's a natural tendency. That's like your primordial nature, as an example. So I think that it would be good to start also examining what is real, what is your true nature, what are real needs and wants and understandings of each individual. Then you can come together with a shared idea of what is workable on the planet, So.
Yeah, really beautifully shared. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's.
I agree, Mary. It's very much, and I feel like it's coming in a way because what's happening on a global level is potentially, and on a local level, is connection to a higher purpose. I mean, people were challenged by the COVID lockdowns and everything else. A lot of people just thought, what am I working for? What am I doing this for? What am I here for? So that already happened, and that was the positive behind that. And I feel like there is definitely what I think we call the rise of consciousness is merely asking questions. What are we here for? What can we do together? How can we thrive together? I believe it's coming real fast, because it's coming real fast in some of us. And as we're speaking, it's coming real fast everywhere.
Mary, I was wondering if you have any specific suggestions for how we could apply what you're talking about to this conversation, to how we're functioning as a group here, to how we're to how we're embodying a wiser culture right here in this process and in this sort of community.
Yeah, I do. I study with I'm one of the Indigenous grandmothers of Europe, and I studied with an indigenous Choctaw, a Choctaw and Dene elder, and she is talking to us also about the different kind, how the universe actually works. And the thing is, as you look at those laws, as you can see the actuality of them, it's not like trying to believe something. So it's not to try to believe something, it's to try to find out how something is actually working. What is the actual nature of something? So depending on whether this group would become available for such thing, maybe I can start hooking it up to that kind of thing, and have some people maybe come in or something. But what I would say is, to begin with, to see that we all want to, that we all, and I think we talked about this with Sammy too in one of our groups, is that in Indigenous law, we're all precious children of creation. So in that, we're not operating from a deficit, as an example, like we are a sinner and we're no good, and so we can never be okay. We're coming from a different place. That energetically, just the knowing of that you were born and that there is a place here for you, that starts to shift the perception just slightly. And then to understand the laws of creation, like water runs downhill as an example. I keep on using that as an example, but if you start understanding that, and you understand how mud holds together with water, with straw as an example, you know, you can build a brick that'll start holding. You look at the actuality of something that doesn't require a belief, but requires us to go into our knowing. Like we all know at some level that we want to feel like all for one and one for all. We all know at some level we don't want to be left out as an outcast. We don't want to like claw our way to the top of some kind of ladder and try to become this big person that's selling workshops and all this stuff, just making stuff up just for hype and all this. That there's something that wants to be authentic and be okay, even if it's that it doesn't have to prove itself. So if we start talking about the reality of our spirit, the reality that we don't want to prove ourselves to try to be okay, the reality that we want to be able to make mistakes and admit it and just be vulnerable. If we start even seeing any of this stuff, we start kind of cracking through some of this. And a part of what this would include also is the cyclical nature of reality, which would be when the elders are included and the young people are included, and then the elders give the wisdom to the young people, and then the young people help the elders, and then all the resources go that way instead of from the bottom to the top, and then nobody has anything at the bottom and everybody has stuff at the top. And then basically it marginalizes us. If we start looking at the fact that makes pain, the fact that makes us not have a safety net, the fact that makes us not feel secure, if we start looking at these things, then we can, by understanding the truth, we can start understanding how things need to be constructed so everybody can feel like they're winning, everybody can feel safe, everybody can feel congruent and seen and part of something, everybody can be honored for their gifts. You know, those kinds of things will bring about the reality of the spirit manifest. That is indigenous wisdom. That is the way you imply, and you have indigenous wisdom. As an example, a little kid will be doing something all the time, and the mothers and the aunties watch them for what they like to do, and then they start seeing their gifts, and then they start nurturing their gifts. And it doesn't become like making Gumbies for somebody or making these silly products that nobody cares about just to have money, just to sell your soul, whatever it is, it becomes something that is a blossoming of the heart. So I will just start with that and we can talk about it later.
I have to say that's kind of exactly what made me start thinking about this kind of community, is that all the things you just said, really, that whole idea of accepting oneself and one's place easily. And we are part of nature. Nature is a thing. If you watch a duck or if you watch an animal and how they behave with one another, the way they're able to have a really big fight and still stay in the tribe, you know, they have their ways of dealing with issues. They, you know, I've been feeling very much like everybody keeps saying tribalism. We all need to be a tribe. But what I've noticed is, you know, often that doesn't include the houseless or the ill or the old. It includes the pretty people who all get along. And, you know, I just feel like I feel much differently about that. You know, I know the woman who paints her name in poop on my bridge, and she doesn't paint her name at my house because I respect that she's a human and I am okay with touching her. And it's shocking to know how very little compassion there is. And I think that is what I'm trying to develop with my idea of tribalism. And I think that fits very much with the old school way of believing that we bring one another up and then everyone's healthy, right?
Yeah. Beautifully said by both of you. And I think, you know, there was the thought of even like the name of like Gathering of the Tribe or Gathering of the Tribes, plural, and like realizing like on the website it says like more, this is the Earth Tribe, really one tribe. And then also honoring, like even with the Indigenous First Nations, there are a lot of different tribes that have different origin stories and different lenses of the world. And so it's also bringing us together with, you know, the varying perspectives and exploring how we can create harmony with that. And I think, you know, that's part of the beauty of this question. That's for all of us here to, you know, co-create and explore.
I'd like to also hold space for the other side of what might actually be natural to us, the nature of our like ancestry and the animals we've come from, that we are like a status seeking primate, that it is a very core drive. And some of us are more conscious of it than others. And it tends to fuel narcissism, and it can cause conflicts in groups, and it can cause hierarchies in all sorts of indigenous societies. So that if we don't address that, that's also a need, that people have a need to feel at the top of the social hierarchy, often in the groups they're in or near it, but not at the bottom. If we don't address that and help those, you know, who are maybe more at the bottom of the social hierarchy, get their needs met, then we're ignoring just this primal, very difficult to modulate base drive need we have. And it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of training and self-awareness and introspection that not a lot of people have to be able to modulate that well, or to be even aware of when it's operating.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one right there. That's it.
To add to that, and also in conjunction with what Mary was saying, is that repeating and holding certain higher truth, like we are all children of God and the earth. When we repeat that and we become that, we start seeing people at, you know, for, not say who they are, but the gifts of everyone, and allowing people to show who they are also in terms of gifts. And then as we create our own new environment and communities that are operating on the fact that we are all children of God and the earth, certainly we have an environment where nobody is more important than others. We're all here to bring something. So the current system is creating the destruction. The new system in which we are all children of God and the earth here with a purpose, when we create that community, automatically, I think it solves every problem because everybody is being seen and nurtured. So I think that's really one of the answers we're looking for.
Okay, I'm gonna contribute because I'm not sure if I followed what everybody was saying, although I did appreciate. I didn't quite understand everything. And I was just trying to reread the question about what I was supposed to, it was 1 to 3 core values. I just want to throw out there that I don't think I care so much. I don't know if this is wrong or right, but it's how I feel. I don't care if everybody has the same cosmological outlook in the community, and to say that we're all like thinking the same way would really exclude a lot of the people I hold dearly. My main priority would be that I live in a community that's living sustainably and supporting the earth, and that's my number one reason for being here, is just finding ways to live more in tune with earth. Yeah, throwing it out there.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Agreed.
And, you know, these are deep questions that, you know, we can talk about for hours, obviously. We are kind of coming up at the 1.5 hour mark. And I think typically I'm gonna, last month I tried to do kind of 60 minutes of a couple of the initial questions. And then the last half hour had a couple little breakout rooms. And so Bob had some feedback on timing and breakout rooms for if anybody has thoughts or feedback on how we can improve these online gatherings and be, you know, as impactful and productive as possible. Totally open to feedback and suggestions, either, you know, personally, like on the Telegram thread or in the group. We could dialogue about it together. And I saw somebody just Mari put your email in here, and so that's a good way. You can drop your email or contact in the chat if there's specifically anybody, you know, that you want to connect with. Another way to connect is there's a questionnaire that we invited people to fill out, and there's a handful of questions. And you can also see everybody's responses to those. And on that form, on that Google form, it lists the people's email address. And then if they wanted to show their phone number as well. So that Google form is a good way to see what other people's core values are. If there's people you want to reach out to and connect with directly. The Telegram group is a good way to stay in communication between the monthly Zooms that we have. And I saw Steve just ask, are there any in-person gatherings coming up? So the third Saturday of the month is kind of the format we're doing. The first Thursday, the Zoom here, kind of nationally, internationally. And then on the third Saturday of the month, anybody who wants to gather in person. So in San Diego, we have a gathering planned and a location. And I'm gonna look into the other thing that I think she zoomed off, but a woman earlier mentioned there's something else going on that same day here in San Diego that we'll look at. But in Sedona, in Boulder, in Taos, there are the groups that we met with. They're gonna have a gathering there in those communities. And any of you that live anywhere, the invitation is open to you to, on the third Saturday of the month, there's a little template of how kind of what we're doing for our gatherings. And that can kind of give you some guidance. And you're welcome to, you know, even if it's as small as inviting 2 or 3 people in the town where you live that you think share these core values, to start building those relationships with people in your community. That's a big part of this. Like, I have a lot of friends here in San Diego. They're like, I will come to the in-person gatherings. I'm not going to do the Zoom stuff. And so there's kind of like 2 things we've got here, like, you know, connecting nationally and internationally with all of us kind of across the country. And then also the opportunity to start engaging deeper in these discussions with people that are in the towns where we already live. So that invitation is there for everyone.
I have some questions about that. didn't on the website. I saw the thing about the in-person gatherings, but didn't see any actual listings of gatherings that are planned. Are those announced on there, or do you have to just kind of like know about people that are doing them? And the other question is, I filled out that questionnaire, but I didn't know there was a way we could look at other people's responses. So can you post a link to how to do that?
Yes, I'll post the question in the link chat right here. So there's both the questionnaire if people want to fill it out and the questionnaire responses. Oh yeah, there's the responses there. And as far as the in-person gathering, I will list the details of the San Diego one soon on the website, and any details I get from others, they can sit on that calendar. We'll share that.
Okay, I'm likely to know a lot of most of the people I know that are in community are actually in San Diego, so I'll probably see people I know there. But that questionnaire is really, relating back to one of the earlier questions, looking at people's responses to these questionnaire would be a good way to know, at least on a basic level, if there's any compatibility for community with them.
Yes.
So I think that'll be interesting to look at.
Yes, absolutely. And I will share.
By the way, can you hear me okay? Because we found out in the breakout room that the video was taking up too much bandwidth and garbling the audio. So are you hearing me clearly now?
Yes, I hear you clearly now. And I do hear it a little bit.
Okay, I'll have to leave the camera off then.
But for the San Diego gathering, I'll post in group. And there will probably be an email to go out through anybody that registered on Eventbrite also. So there's a handful of ways to figure out about where the in-person gatherings are. And on the third Thursday of the month, we're going to start doing something called the Regenerative Community Development Mastermind. And that will be a deeper dive into like really looking at like specific designs for different properties. And right now there's a property in Baja. It's about 14 acres. We might look at the Juniper Springs property in Colorado as well on those 44 acres. And then another potential project is in Panama with a group called the Wise Foundation. And so we're still figuring out what our case study projects are going to be, but the Regenerative Community Development Mastermind on the third Thursday of the month, that's coming up on July 20th. I'll post that in the chat as well. That's for people like, real deep dive who really want to look at whole systems design, looking at zoning, looking at building permits, looking at permaculture design, and just go deeper into it. So that will be on the third Thursday. And I think that is about it. I'll drop the chat in the chat, like the Facebook event for next month, if anybody wants to share and invite any friends to this gathering next month. And
Josh, how do we get into the Thursday thing?
I just posted in the chat the mastermind link.
Ah.
Josh, can I ask you a question too, real quick?
Yes.
Time. Are you buying a bunch of properties collectively, or is each property a different animal? Or I don't know exactly if there's any rhyme or reason to how this is going. Like, are there just little individual groups that are buying things, or I don't know. This is basically a networking of numerous different people and projects in both this gathering of the tribes and the mastermind. So there's not any specific cohesiveness between like any of these properties right now. They all kind of have little of their different visions, all with shared values of, reciprocity and balance and harmony with the earth, but different concepts for that. So yeah, does that? Well, it starts to answer my question, but yeah. I haven't really been here before, so I don't really know the totality of what's happening. I think I also would like to get more into, I don't know how to pronounce it, but sociocracy or whatever.
Sociocracy, yeah.
Yeah, and look at that also. I have started to in the past, but I would like to know more about it also.
Yeah, to me, it's a great model of making sure power and authority is distributed amongst a whole community and group, that, you know, there's not one person that becomes the king, queen, dictator, chief, and it's really spreads out the decision-making process. And it's very circular in when you start to map it out, it kind of looks like kind of the flower of life. And it's, yeah, it's a great model for decision making and organization.
So when you're saying the flower of life, are you saying that it has many, many petals off every single point? Or in what way is it flower of life like?
It, like, there's a general circle in the middle, and then you create like kind of like parent circles and sibling circles that set up a domain and name for that specific working group.
Mhm.
And they create, you know, little subgroups off of that, and all of the information feeds back in towards the general circle. And if you lay it out in a way, it just like starts to kind of look a little bit similar, just like flower of life.
Very good.
Do you think, Josh, it would be accurate to say that sociocracy is basically consensus with committees?
They say so. Like Diana Leaf Christian has a book, Creating a Life Together, it's a great resource. And
On my list.
yeah, and in the original version of the book, she used consensus, and she actually came back and said, if I was to change anything in that book, that chapter I would take out. And she now teaches sociocracy. And they say it's a consent-based model, so it's not specifically consensus. There's a nuanced difference there. And you create kind of the domain and aims for a specific circle, and they have kind of a semi-autonomous you know, kind of authority to make decisions that has been agreed upon by kind of the group as a whole, what they have the rights to make decisions around. And in that circle, there's a series of like proposals, and you go through a round and say, like, is there any objections? And if there's an objection, you know, it's shared, and you work towards, is it good enough for now, safe enough to try? So it's not consensus. And a lot of people that have used consensus have shared that it can be extremely time consuming and draining, and that these are more efficient models for moving things forward. So it's a consent-based decision process that really takes into account everybody's voice, but it is nuanced, different than, like, a little bit different than consensus.
I've actually taken a sociocracy course, but I've never like put it to practice, and so it doesn't, you know what I mean, until you do
Yeah, until you do it, like, yeah, actually. And so for 2 years, our group, we all did a training in it and used it for those 2 years, and it was a great learning process.
Nice.
Did you train with Ted?
Diana Leaf Christian, she taught our,
Diana.
yeah,
She teaches it.
yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. I hope if any of you are in San Diego, I hope to, like, for some of us to start meeting in person on the 15th, on the third Saturday. And for those of you that are other places in the world, I look forward to seeing you hopefully on the first Thursday of next month. And yeah, invite you, if you feel inspired to have even a small little gathering of the tribes in your town or community, invite a couple people. You can use the template. You'll get an email with it. I posted it in the chat. And yeah, let's just take maybe 30 seconds here to close this with a little presence with one another. Take a big inhale. Exhale, sigh it out. Yeah, just once again sharing Gratitude for each and every one of you for showing up, sharing your hearts, your inspiration, your love, your wisdom with this group, for listening to the spirit, voice of Pachamama that is inviting us to live in peace and balance and harmony and reciprocity upon this beautiful planet. Gratitude for each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Oh.
Thank you.
Right. Blessings, everyone. Have a beautiful evening.
You too.
Blessings, everyone.
Blessings.
You.
Bye.